very good morning to you, and many thanks for keeping it Y254. My name is Karanja Alex, and it's always a pleasure to have you join us for Youth and Politics. Every Monday, it's usually that time that we get to look at youth and politics, some of the things that have been relating so much and happening that relates to us as young people. Today, we have quite a topic that we'd like to look at, and probably just to give us a brief understanding. Since the birthing of Jubilee Party in September 8, 2016, after several parties merged, among them, of course, URP and TNA, the question of who will succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta has been running through the minds of many politicians from all the sides of the coin. Now, 2022 politics are seemingly taking preeminence almost in each and every meeting where politicians primarily from Kieleweke and Tanga are present. Well, this has been in the recent days, considering even yesterday. We have had heated debates with politicians throwing words at each other over 2022 presidential bid. The president has, however, been calling upon politicians to work for Kenyans rather than playing dirty politics, that's in quote, dirty politics, as he says, focusing on 2022. Well, the big question is for the day, is it time for 2022 politics? To help us answer this and much more, I'm joined by two guests. Of course, among them is Muthiora Kariara.
Thank you very much, Alex, for having me today.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
And of course, I'm having right next to him Daniel Orogo, who is a political analyst.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to a wonderful discussion today.
All right.
Yeah.
Amazing. You began somewhere, then you chipped in right now. Karibu sana.
Asante.
But before we look even at the 2022 presidential succession politics, I want us to look at the CBC. That is the grade 3 assessment test supposed to be commencing this morning. The rehearsals are supposed to be beginning right now. In the recent days, there have been allegations that there have been not inclusivity of some stakeholders in the sector. What do you think about it?
Well, I think this is a very interesting story that we've been observing for some time. And I think the introduction of CBC as a curriculum, and vis-a-vis the 844, it is important that we understand that is, as opposed to trying to be, looking at what really do you know, but then it's really what do you have as an individual, basing on your skills, basing on your career development. So for me, I think the assessment of grade 3, I would really measure it into a number of things. First is the age of these pupils by right now. And if they would be subjected to call it assessment or call it exams or anything that the ministry
has been so clear saying that it's an assessment, not an examination.
The ministry would want to. Either way, in whatever you are subjecting these small children to, and all this hullabaloo that comes with the exam. So one of the things that I would try to urge is the fact that while we are really trying to bring up and socialize our pupils to focus on the skills as opposed to paperwork, it is also quite important to safeguard them from the fear of the processes that are coming with what we are subjecting them to. I saw the press by the CEO, and she was saying that this is a very critical age where we are only asking 3 questions: if they are below the expectation, above, or they have exceeded. So I think it's important that even as we subject them towards a formative, or I don't know whether it's summative process, would we have put them through a system where they come appreciative, as opposed to trying to make them within us. If anybody would have mentioned the word exam here, you could actually see people's faces changing, or even assessment naturally. What about these small children? But then the way you said that our education has been littered with a number of conflicts, which really needs to be harmonized as we speak. As we speak, you know what the troubles that the Secretary General of NAT is in, and all other stakeholders. So the more the inclusion, the more the consultation, and the more the engagement, because these are stakeholders that are quite important in trying to build up the education system.
Right, Muthiora, there has been several mentions by the teachers, and of course even some of them head teachers, claiming that they really don't understand what exactly is expected of them. Some of them have been so clear about the issue. Do you think this will be successful?
This exercise will be successful, just like KCP and KCSE have been before. You remember Professor Magoha, before he became the cabinet secretary, he was in charge of NEC. And he carried out with great success this national exercise.
All right.
So I expect that these grade 3 assessment will be very successful. Now, the question should be, is the feedback they're going to receive from this exercise going to count in the way that they conduct the rollout of the CBC going forward?
Right.
And I'll tell you, it's true that from the beginning, the stakeholder engagement was not as it should have been. When our constitution says we need to engage stakeholders to have public participation, it should be carried out to the latter.
All right. Right now we are looking at a clip where kids, that's the Crossley pupils, all alone they were collecting garbage from all over the markets and cleaning the markets. I don't know what you think. Are we justified to give these kids these kind of tasks?
Well, that's what I said. It depends on where the question is coming from. For me, I think if this is basically meant for their, intellectual, or their psychological development, learning, I think it meets what Muthiora is just saying here, that would we have a system where it is much appreciative, more of learning, either conscious or unconscious, other than telling them that you have to do this because you'll earn grades out of it.
Right.
For me, this is purely for the purposes of trying to understand, for example, the importance of keeping your environment clean. You understand? And the personal responsibility that you as a young person have, that you do not need to be whisked by the teachers. I'm putting it so simply just to make me probably understand what they're being taken through, as opposed to being told that, you have to do this each and every time. It comes out of their own responsibility as, young leaders and and pupils who are learning. But now the other thing is here, what we are talking about. As opposed to what my friend is talking about, that you see, we have all ideas or all reservations about Professor Magoha and how he's handling the education system. Others think he's bullying and dozing way through, trying to reform education system. Others, Muthiora is in his mind is thinking that Professor Magoha is rolled out the neck, while he was in the neck, he's rolled out this CBC system, and he's going to be successful. All these things, people are subjective to opinion. But mine is, the moment you begin to exclude important stakeholders in a curriculum development, the moment you think that their value do not add up, that is the process at which you begin to make mistakes. For me, I think this is one of the curriculum, like you said, that would help in terms of restoring our, trying to bridge the gap that we were seeing within the mismatch of talent and skills and attachment in jobs. But then it would be very important that we reconsider our own engagement with stakeholders as we speak.
Has the government failed in terms of inclusivity?
Well, I mentioned that the kind of participation that was conducted by the Ministry of Education was more of just cosmetics. Let it appear as if we consulted the stakeholders, but then it was not as inclusive as it should be.
So to you, it's some sort of a PR?
Yes, and to date, I would say they're still making efforts to reach out, but this should have begun before the bus left the station.
Right.
Now, before, I mentioned that Professor Magoha carried out successful examinations before. So I was referring to the CBC assessment that's happening. That's going to be successful. I can guarantee you that. Just like KCSE has been and KCPE. The question is the feedback they are going to get. What are they going to do with it? And is that going to be useful?
Now, with the teachers and preparedness and the ones that have said that they don't even know what they're expected to be doing, you still think we are ready for this?
Well, I'll give you my own story. I moved away from a school that was a bit advanced.
High school?
In 1993, primary school in the Rift Valley, and went to Migori County, where there is a subject that I was used to doing then, art and craft and music.
But for you, you did Y254 system?
Yes. Now, when I went to this school, apparently they did not have art and craft and music. Instead, what they had was handiwork. So to begin with, when I went back home and told my father that I have been asked to get the following materials, he did not understand. because it was as if we were running on different systems. Where I was, this was not a requirement, but now I'm in this other school, and this is the case. So that stakeholder engagement is very important. First, the people who interact with the children on a daily basis, that's the teacher. They need to be on board. That's currently ongoing. Now, besides that, like you've seen in the clip, what the children have been taken through also involves the community.
Yes.
That's the parents as well. You see, they say that it takes a whole village to educate a child. So I'm pro CBC because this is the new era where you need to develop a child, not just intellectually, but then throughout.
Dan, you seem to be having a contrary opinion.
Not really contrary opinion, but my point of departure has been very clear with the CBC. And you see, in the admission that there was a failure of stakeholder engagement to when we were trying to roll out this system. It actually portrays the fact that we might have begin from from some point that is not all right. But then CBC to itself, I think it's one of the curriculum that will really try to bridge a lot of gap that was created by 844. Everybody agrees on that. My only point of that I keep on saying is, the fact that as a curriculum, the infrastructure that is already laid. You just intimated yourself there that, some of the teachers, as we speak, have not even understand. What about the equipments? What about laying down? We are having schools who've not even been connected to the grid, in different parts of the country. This is a system that sometimes requires that you connected to the grid. You have full power electricity and infrastructure with it. So I am not saying that, this is something that is doing it certain this detriment. But what I am saying is that even as we enroll it, can we make sure that there's proper infrastructure, the skills and the equipment with the teachers, the well-trained teachers that are able to carry through this curriculum with it. So I am not opposed to it, but I'm saying that it requires some, to onboard certain things that are, until we speak, there is reservations about those things, whether they are there or not.
And of course, you can keep on interacting with us on our social media platforms. That is on Twitter, we are at Y254 channel, of course, and my Twitter handle is at K_Alex. And of course, on our Facebook page, it's Y254. Let's go straight to our SMS line, of course, before even TP2 anything. It's 20154, starting with the word Y254. Now, gentlemen, I want us to dive into the topic of the day. Do you think it's time for 2022 politics? Muthiora.
Well, 2022 politics has its season. What we should be focusing on right now is running the nation and helping the government that is in office today to get the manifesto actualized as had been envisioned before. That's number one. Now, that should mostly be the work of Parliament because they're the ones who oversight the executive. But then look at the scenario in our leadership today. We have the ruling party that in itself is divided. We have one arm that is Kieleweke, and we have Tanga Tanga on the other side. Now, the party or coalition that came second in the previous election has crossed over from the opposition into the government. So if you ask me, those people who are in government right now should be focusing on delivering to the people. The people who should be focusing on 2022 should be the citizens, asking themselves if they are getting value from their leaders. And if not, then they should be looking beyond them. And of course, people like me and those others who were part of the exercise in 2017 and did not get into office, we should be preparing for office in 2022.
All right. It's noteworthy that, are you vying for any position because I know that you're a former?
Yes. In 2017, I was a running mate, a presidential running mate.
For?
Dr. Japheth Kaluyu.
All right.
We ran as independent candidates.
All right.
In preparation for 2022, we've been working on building a party. And it's just a matter of time before we launch this party that's going to be all-inclusive, will uphold the tenets of democracy, and will carry forward this nation to make it as great as was envisioned by those who fought for independence.
And of course, I understand there's a vying for the Kibra MP.
Well, yeah, I am one of the aspirants for
Yes.
Kibra MP position. But then, of course, we are having a problem with our party. I think you understand the intrigues in Jubilee Party as we speak.
Yes.
And that is subject to today's IEBC dispute outcome. Of course, we and other candidates subjected ourselves through a vetting process.
Yes.
We went through a vetting, and everybody knows what happened, and we are still waiting. But then, let me say this. You asked a very critical question about 2022
Yes.
and succession and all these politics that are here. One of the things I really like to agree with what my colleague is saying is that, you see, there is a time for everything. There might be a time for delivery of services. And to this extent, the support of the president, the ruling coalition or the ruling party to deliver the Big Four agenda. And that is what the president has been asking each and every political players, regardless of where they are coming from, to support him, you know, to fulfill the Big Four agenda. The other thing that the president has been focusing, that is in the fight against corruption. And what now is getting in is the Unity Pact.
Yes.
They unite the country towards a common cause. Alex, my problem has been, and let me say this, that everybody who ran in 2017 has not been around for some time. And this is when I want to ask my brother, be it independent of the party that he ran through, what we could actually be seeing other political players that ran through that platform to do is to seriously hold the government accountable and be vocal in matters of governance, matters of corruption, and matters of Big Four agenda. The problem of launching parties as we head to election, this is our undoing as Kenyans. And I think instead of us sitting at a point where we ask, what did you do with what you're given? Not only at the national level,
Yes.
not only at the executive level, could we begin to question what has been our political place and all the candidates who ran for presidential or any other position to begin to task, even as we head through political issues, referendum and all this, could we hear the voices of those who are at the equal platform? The problem that I question and give critique, that as we head to 2022, you are going to see a lot of political parties, a lot of formation. And I would be very critical and ask them, what have you been doing in the time that you didn't manage to get into position until now? Secondly,
Okay, just allow me to interject.
Just a moment. Let's allow him to finish. Just a moment. Let's allow him to finish.
Right now, like he said, the different political camps, and this is a ruling government. One of the things, this is undoing. He's only mentioned Kilewe and Tanga. We're also having a women that are
Embrace and, you know,
embrace and all these things. The opposition that has forgotten their oversight role and is now dallying with the government.
All right.
The citizens are left at the masses of probably civil society, which have not seen questioning the government a lot, and the media.
Dan,
So,
you mentioned
yes.
two things about accountability and the coming up of several teams that have been coming up. I want to give you an opportunity to respond to what you said about accountability.
Well, first, allow me to just respond to some things he said.
Yes.
You see, this is the problem with the leadership we have today. Sometimes people confuse movement with motion. You see, you need to be able to move from point A to point B. Don't just appear like you're doing something when you're not actually doing anything. Well, he's a member of Jubilee Party, I believe.
Yes.
And for him to point fingers at what others out there are doing is really not been sincere.
All right.
Because Jubilee is a party that has been plagued with a lot of problems. Everyone knows this. In Kibra, for instance, Jubilee nominated someone who has not even been a member of the party. You see, that shows that this party is not serious. I've been in Kenya since I was born. I've gone to school here. I've worked here. I've contributed to society here. Since 2017, we've been on the ground. You've heard about the Red Vest movement. Every week you've called me to this show. I have come and provided my insight about how we should move forward on things.
Yeah.
So what I would urge young people to do is to invest their time in the causes that are going to move this nation forward, and to not just shout about things. We have solutions to the problems that we face.
And
now, about the accountability bit, it's possible we can hold our leaders to account. The first line of defense for the citizens are the leaders we've elected into parliament. They're supposed to oversight the government. When they do not do that, then we are supposed to agitate, to organize, and tell them that if they do not do that, we will recall them. If you went through the motions, you know that in August, there's that clause where you can recall your MP if you're not satisfied by the work they are doing. So, yes, we have to keep pushing our leaders to hold those in office to account.
There's something I want to quote from the president that he said about corruption, the corruption quagmire that has been hitting the country. This was said, "I'm also not seeking re-election," and I quote, "and don't care who is caught in the mix." He's speaking two things here. He's not seeking re-election. On the other hand, he says, I don't care whomever is caught in the mix. Previously, he had said something that was quite skeptical. He said, "We shall keep that vow because I personally have no friends other than the people of Kenya." What was this? Who was being directed towards this statement? Looking at how Jubilee is, and especially, I'd like you precisely to answer this question. How is Jubilee right now? Because we have Kieleweke, we have Tangatanga that are fighting each and every Sunday.
Well, I think as a member of the party, I really do not want to put this under the carpet, that the house is no longer holding. You know, the center cannot hold itself, and things are falling apart. And one of the things that we as young people within the party has questioned the party leader to do is to call for a parliamentary group meeting. You understand? The only solution that sorted this problem, because Alex, this is a ruling party. And to that extent, other political players would be important to see us as a party that is able to cohese and roll out development plans, minus. So if there is a problem with the party, even we do not have to shout at different platforms, but even holding the party leadership accountable from within without shouting. This is what we have done as young people in the party. And there's several times we've asked the party to hold itself, avoid these camps. But the other thing that happens that really it's putting us at crossroads is the fact that we are having different parties under the formation. These are parties that came with different ideologies, you understand?
Through the merging.
Through the merging.
Right.
And the purpose is that the party leader has been vocal that is not seeking another term. The question is, by the invitation and working with the opposition leader, what is the line between owning a manifesto, the Jubilee manifesto, and embracing, the opposition? The difference of working with, you understand, and trying to commit and fulfilling the big
Dan,
four
do you
agenda.
think we have an active opposition right now?
There is no, I can tell you for a fact, there is no active opposition, because then we are torn in between. Because look at the first term of between 2013 to 2017, when the opposition would actively leave alone the battles in the streets, and even within the National Assembly, even within the Senate. And these are processes, like my brother said, that is the first process that citizens would actually voice their concern through the elected representatives. But as we move to after 2017 in the handshake, it's actually opposition that was diluted and dilly-dallying with the government. So as a person who is within the party, it is not me to celebrate if the voices of the citizens are diluted within the power in trying to work within the umbrella of uniting the country.
All right.
But then, let me go, just a second.
Please go.
Muthiora, let me tell you that even the Third Way Alliance was the participants in the election. They did not stop after the election. They came and trying to find an alternative. You understand?
Yes.
They're trying to find an alternative, what is better for Kenyans. And hence their proposal to Punguza Mzigo. It is an active process that goes on.
Are you proposing that even other parties should come on
No,
board?
no, I'm not saying other parties, but even other players. You know, well, I might not be really a follower of the Red Vest movement, but I would want to see the presidential candidate. What does your presidential candidate have a proposition that would help Kenyans? Issues of formation of the parties, and these are issues that I have been very vocal about. As we head to election, and I would not really be happy about formation of more parties. We already have political players
Dan,
that would provide us with an alternative
Alex,
on what it is.
Dan,
the last thing
Dan,
that anyone
just
should do
Yes.
is to take advice about forming parties from someone who's a member of the Jubilee Party. They have showed us how to not run a political party.
Right.
Yeah, a party formed in 2016, and right after the election, it crumbles. You've heard about the Beyond Zero corruption. These are Kenyans who have come together to fight the vice that's corruption. This ill that makes sure that Kenya cannot rise. Now, we've tried to engage stakeholders through dialogues, and it's open to everyone. It's not by your affiliation to a political party or to any other movement. If you're tired with corruption and you want action taken, the banner has been the Beyond Zero corruption. And this is a house or an umbrella body for all Kenyans. I've been a key player in that. We've held protests in the streets. We've been tear gassed a number of times, but we have not relented. And our call from the very beginning was that should any state officer be implicated in corruption, they should first and foremost step aside. We agitated for that, and eventually it came to be. We saw the CS for Finance step aside. We've seen a number of government officials being barred from accessing office after they've been implicated in corruption cases. So you can see that the activities we've carried out have yielded some fruits.
All right.
Now, the formation of these new parties is a leeway to enhance and deepen democracy. When Jubilee was formed, it swallowed up a lot of political parties, thus, in a way, shrinking the democratic space that we have. That's why we can see the rise of tyranny. Now, we want to embrace democracy. We want to give voice to all Kenyans who perhaps may have a different opinion as compared to those in
Have
power.
Kenyans been deprived their right? Have they been deprived of their right of democracy?
I believe to a certain extent, yes. And there is something I wanted to underline from the statement my friend here made. He's a young leader, and he boldly came out, unlike those other sycophants we see, and said that the center is not holding in Jubilee. Work needs to be done to fix this. That's what we need. We need people coming out and saying, we love our party. We know it can deliver, but there's a problem on this and that. Can we please give a way forward?
Let's talk about the 2018, the March 2018 handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and the former premier. Has it broken some chords in the Jubilee Party?
It did. That's why sometimes... Okay, I'll let him take that.
It's okay, you can just go ahead as we allow it.
Yeah. You see, you've had people say, I think we are not on the right path, but because of the handshake, I will not push too hard. I will let what the principals say is the case remain as such.
Has it impacted on the deputy president, the handshake?
I do not see how, because his office is protected by the Constitution. Every day when he wakes up, we see him go around the country launching projects. So clearly, I do not see how the handshake has undermined him in any way.
All right, done.
Well, as somebody who is within, I think I would like to tell you that was the point of conflict. Let's also understand where we are coming from as a country, especially after the rerun of 2017 repeat election.
Yes.
Everybody understands what happened in the turmoil, in our economy stagnating because of fear of investment, stocks market coming down. And I acknowledge that it is important for two leaders, these two most protagonists, to meet and agree. and not really make these two things about themselves. Let me begin by saying, it was for the good and for the interest of all Kenyans to have a peaceful country where we would proceed to do our work as usual.
Right.
Now, coming in, and Alex have been in this platform every time. Today, I do not want to repeat the incoming of BBI and the rest of all these initiatives. You know, they are meant for public good, but the public have not yet received what is in store. What is the details about this?
Yeah, but BBI is supposed to present its final report by the end of this month.
Listen,
so they're still in
even
due time.
Punguza Mizigo had their proposal, but it was within the public domain. You know, it is incumbent for each and every initiative that I run. As a young person, I would want through open data and open policy.
But they'll be presenting that.
Listen, you know, what is in the public domain is the 9-point agenda. That everybody knows and can read about them.
Yes.
But I am going to tell you that there are issues that you know, these two leaders might have agreed on. I'm not speaking about this. Even the National Assembly members are asking for these things to be made public.
Yes.
And as a young person, and the interest of this country, I know there's a report coming, but I would want these nitty-gritties as person. We are holding this country in trust for the future generation. I would want to know exactly what is in store for the future. And secondly, you are asking what is in what about the deputy president? Let me tell you, after the handshake, you've seen there's a lot of changes. The demeanor, between the ties and you know, my brother and my sister and all these things, and all these things working together, automatically has disappeared.
So the tie issue has now faded.
And now, hence the formation now of Kileweke and Tangatanga. It was on the basis of this thing called the handshake.
All right.
In the BBA. Troubles did not begin after the arena of election. It actually began after the handshake. So it is important for political players, including my brother. Could young people critically move to occupy this space for a long time, that irregardless of any political landscape we are coming from, could we as young people own this space and begin to question that our political parties have not been forthcoming with the indulgement and engagement of the youth, mostly in important issues and policy?
Yes.
Irregardless of any political formulation we are coming from, could it be important for us to move in swift and begin to question critically these important documents?
That's quite a point that we'll, of course, be looking at about
because
the youth
what we are lacking in this country is we do not have a critical force of young people who are drawn from different political issues, agreeing on specific issue-based.
All right, so young people are really to blame on this?
I think they're really to blame, but even asking them to front, you really need to front yourselves.
All right.
You really need to front yourself in this initiative. This is not what we've been doing as young people.
All right, so young people need to be vocal?
This is what I'm saying.
All right.
And I'm glad we have one who's very vocal right here.
All right.
So
I know we still have very many watching us this morning.
And we should encourage them. Yesterday I saw in a New Kisim youth doing the unforgivable. Someone paid them to show up with placards to heckle a leader. Well, I would urge our young people to critically think about the actions that they take.
Right.
We have brains. Let's use these brains. About Tangatanga and Kieleweke, let's go back to the genesis. If you look at the statistics, you'll see that the attrition rate for politicians from the Mount Kenya region is in the range of over 80%. 80% of the people in parliament today are not coming back. So we should see beyond the deceit. The leaders currently playing around, monkeying around and trying to curtail the president, it's because they know they most probably are not coming back. So what they're trying to do is to milk as much as they can from the cash cows that are ready to give at the moment. And we know, or we've heard, that the deputy president has some very deep pockets. So let us see beyond the lie. Let us demand for value. That's what I'll keep saying. You elected a leader. Are they doing the job you elected them to do? If they are not, seek out an alternative that is credible. And there are lots of them.
Where are we heading in terms of our politics as a country? Because looking at last Sunday, but one, we had Ndidi Nyoro and, of course, Minor Commander, the nominated member of parliament, throwing words towards each other in a church. Same incident happened yesterday in Laikipia County, where we had Minor Commander, being, of course, obviously, it was an ejection process by the Laikipia County woman representative. Where are we heading in terms of politics in 2022?
Well, the Vision 2030 envisions what the political, or the political side of Vision 2030 states out clearly that we are looking towards an issue-based politics. And politics that we are not really swayed aside by ethnic bigotry or all, name-calling, shouting all over. What did this mean for us as youth? It really places us at a position where we are inheriting a political culture where we can be able to stand in any platform, regardless of party affiliation, regardless of class, to subject ourselves to citizens and sell the manifesto. And citizens would actually put as a menu and decide based on the policy. This is what we envision.
Yes.
Right. But what we are seeing, we are being treated to, this kind of old guard political, maneuvers, where our politics has even become so detrimental that even in the centers of worship, people would definitely throw words, towards each other. People would definitely eject each other from a church function. It all narrows down to values and principles. As a country, when we allowed our politicians to water down the operations and effect of Chapter 6 of the Constitution, then we ushered ourselves into leaders who do not have regard to values and principles. One of the issues that and I'm very passionate about this, in future, Kenyans and electorates, my brother said, beyond the point of dispute, could we look at ourselves? Who are we? Because who we are electing into positions are exactly a reflection of who we are as a society of voters.
Let me ask a simple question.
Yeah?
Are we in Kenya having bad politics? Muthiora?
Kenya has had very bad politics for a very long time.
Yes.
Our political culture, I think, is one of the worst. Because to begin with, it's ethnic-based.
Yes.
When it's not ethnic-based, then it takes social classes. You've had the narrative about hustlers versus dynasties and that sort of a thing.
Yes.
What we need to focus on are issues, and we have lots of them. But then to put it all together, we know that our biggest problem is poverty. We should be asking ourselves, what is my leader doing to help alleviate our society from poverty?
All right, gentlemen.
We have the highest taxes in the world. We have the highest rates of corruption. As a nation, we are not healthy. Our health system has failed. Our education system is just beginning to get fixed. Are our leaders delivering on these things?
All right, gentlemen, because of time, you'll allow us to break for that time, because time is really not on our side. But as a parting shot, I want to ask this question. Will the 2022 politics be characterized by dynasty politics, as we have seen in the past? I should begin done.
Well, it's already taking shape, and that is the narrative that it's being driven. But then the only caution is the voters actually to disabuse that narrative and make these politicians know that they are going to elect people based on policy and what they say.
All right.
Yeah.
Precisely. Straight to the point.
Let's remember that our problem is not the neighbor who is not from my tribe. The problem is your inability to provide for your children that meal, the education, the health that they need. Let us look to fix these things.
All right. Many thanks, gentlemen, for making it to come, of course, and discuss matters relating to succession politics 2022. My name is Karanja Alex, and has been Youth and Politics. Val is coming up next. Don't touch the dial. This is Y254. Many thanks for coming along. I know time has really been bad.